Thank you very much for joining this call. My name is Linda. I work with Access Human Capital Limited, and I'm a project officer on the Ghana Grows program. Ghana Grows, I know most of you have joined this call before, so you really know what Ghana Grows program is all about. There are others that are new on this call. At the end of the conversation, we'll share with you whatever that you need to know about the Ghana Grows program. So permit me to share my slides, then we'll delve into the presentation. So today, our discussion is on the role of, so we are talking about communication series, and we'll look at the role of communication in the workplace. So this will be the outline of my presentation. First, I'll take you through what communication is. You'll also share with me your knowledge in communication. We'll talk about the forms of communication that we know, technology and communication, importance of having effective communication at the workplace. We'll also look at some of the barriers that hinders us from communicating effectively. And lastly, I'll leave you with tips for effective communication. But before I start, I want to know those on the call. So what I'm going to do is that you would give me the first letter of your name, and then you equate it to a country that you know. So my name is Linda. I would choose Liberia. So anybody on the call, you give me the first letter of your name and the corresponding country.
Hi, my name is Gracia, and so Greece, Gracia.
Thank you, Gracia, Greece. Any other person to introduce themselves?
Yes, please. I am Solomon Akotenga. I choose Somalia.
Somalia. Thank you very much, Solomon.
Hello, I'm Clara. I choose California.
California, Clara. Thank you. Anybody else?
Hello, I'm Jackson. I choose Japan.
Jackson or Johnson?
Jackson.
Jackson,
Actually,
okay. Okay, Japan, thank you.
Hi, I'm Gloria.
Korea.
Yeah, and I choose Korea.
Korea.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Gloria. Gloria, okay. Anybody else?
I am NASA. I choose Norway.
You are Musa.
NASA.
Nasa, okay.
I choose
And you
Norway.
choose Norway. Okay,
Yeah, the
Norway.
name is NASA. NASA. Yeah.
NASA, okay. So Norway,
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah.
I am
Any other-
Margaret. I am Margaret. I choose Madagascar.
Hey, Margaret. Thank you very much, Madagascar. Who else?
Okay, hello. My name is Evelyn, and I'll choose Ethiopia.
Ethiopia, Evelyn. Thank you. Any other person? Two more people, then we proceed.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm Aaron and I choose Angola.
Aaron, thank you very much. The last person, please.
Hello,
Hello.
I'm Love. I'm choosing Nigeria.
You're choosing Nigeria. Please, I didn't get your name.
Love.
Love.
Yes, please.
Okay, you're choosing Nigeria. Okay, I wanted a country that starts with L, so of your name, so you can think about it, will come to you. So as we move on in the discussion, I may be mentioning the names of countries you gave me. So if you hear the country, it means that I'm referring to you, either to make a contribution or to answer a question. So we're talking about communication, and James Hughes was an author and a speech writer. So he wrote speeches for five US presidents. In one of his books, he mentioned that the act of communication is the language of leadership. So in essence, he's trying to say that the more you communicate with people and how effective you communicate, people see you as somebody who is able to lead people, or people begin to listen to you when you speak because of the way you communicate. It wouldn't be necessarily about the words you speak or how you say it, but sometimes when you're effective, knowing your environment and knowing the people or your audience you're talking to, you'll be regarded because of how you speak. So as we go in your workplace, know that people are looking at you and how you look. If it's for managerial position, if it's for any other position that you want to promote you into, to look at how you communicate with people, or how you communicate with your colleagues at the workplace. So get that at the back of your mind. Now, I want to find out from you what you know of communication, or when you say communication, how you understand by it. Anybody?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, communication basically is exchange of information.
Somebody mentioned Norway, NASA, if I remember, you said Norway. Can you tell me what you know about communication, or your understanding of communication? Is NASA still okay?
Yes, please. I'm here.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. What I understand by communication is the process of sharing ideas.
Okay, the process of sharing ideas. Okay, thank you very much for your contribution. Now we know that those of you who did science, you realize that there are so many processes that things go through. So like osmosis, we have processes, diffusion, we have processes. So in the same vein, communication goes through a process where we have a sender. A sender is somebody that I have the message in my thought and I want to communicate. So we have one sender, and then the sender encodes the message. So that's the idea of the idea that the sender wants to communicate. So the sender encodes the message, and then the message goes to a receiver. So it's from the sender. The sender encodes the idea. Then the message goes through a medium. The medium can be a formal communication, that is, I'm talking to you, or I want to write to you. So the message goes through a channel, and after it's gone through that channel, there is a receiver, somebody at the other end who gets the information that the person is given to. Now, after the receiver has got the information, we have what we call decode. So the receiver tries to break down what you have told them, or gives an understanding to the idea that you're coming to communicate. And then the last is feedback, where based on the understanding that the receiver got from your message, he or she is able to give back onto you. So in the same place, in the same vein, the workplace involves that we communicate in our ideas or emotions. So, you know that once you come into this life, communication is inseparable. So you can't do without communication, how you talk to people, or your verbal communication. So it's something that we have to really consider. And there are people who may be born, or they have the art of communication, but really communication skills is developed. So as an individual, wherever you are, you have to be sure to relate your information correctly. Then there's a quote here that says that how well you communicate is not determined by how well you say things, but by how well you are understood. How well you communicate is not determined by how well you say things, but by how well you are understood. So it doesn't matter the number of words you put together or how fluently you speak, but it's about what you say and how the person understands what you have said. If you talk for a long period of time and I'm not able to grasp what you're saying, it means you have not communicated with me effectively. So you have to take into consideration your receiver and how you want your message to be understood. So be careful to yourself, understand what you're saying, so that the next person or your receiver is able to be on the same level with you when you're communicating. Then communication involves more than what you're saying. or when you're listening. It also involves your non-verbal cues, such as your tone, your facial expression, and what you do while somebody is speaking to you, or what you do while you're listening to somebody. And I put here that one of the biggest things, or one of the problems that we have as people, is that we don't listen to understand, but we listen to reply. So most of the time when somebody is speaking, you are quick to reply to what the person is saying, or respond to what the person is saying, or react to what the person is saying. You don't let the message sink into you, but you're quick to react that, okay, he's saying this, so fast forward, I have to give an information to that person or react to what the person is saying. So I put an example here, speaker A, speaker B. Speaker A says, I think we should make changes to the project. And speaker B replies, this will never work. It's a waste of time. I want to find out from you, does speaker B respond to speaker A's message, or speaker B react to her message? Okay, somebody wanted to speak. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I think speaker B reacted to speaker A.
Why do you say so?
Because the response doesn't actually goes with what speaker A means.
Okay. Anybody else? I have somebody mentioned Madagascar on the call. Could you share your opinion on this, whether the person reacted or responded to the message? Is Madagascar there? If not, Angola, can you help me? Clara, you raised your hand. Sorry.
Yes, I just wanted to add to what the lady said earlier. I think the person responded, reacted to what the person was saying. It was not a response.
Why?
Because if someone says, I think we should make changes to this project, your answer should be like, why do you think we should make changes to this product, to this project or something? By you going straight forward saying that this project, this will never work, is like you have already thought about the project and you now have an answer to it, or you have already tried it and you are just giving a conclusion that it's not going to work.
Right. A gentleman wanted to speak. Please, you can go ahead. Hello. I didn't take note of his name, so I cannot really call him out, but somebody wanted to speak. Okay, so while we wait for him to talk, sometimes we are fixated on what we have planned to say. So most of the time, we don't take into consideration what is being discussed. So we have a preconceived notion on whatever that is discussed. So we are quick to react when it doesn't go in sync to what we're thinking. So it is imperative that you, as much as possible, try to respond to statement given to you than reacting to that. Now, Moses says that in the chat room, Moses says that he just reacted to the speaker because he wasn't listening, but waiting to reply. Yes, that's very true. Thank you very much. Now we move on to the forms of communication that we have. I've put down here verbal communication, written communication, and non-verbal communication. So with verbal communication, now we're looking at a workplace. We're not looking at only work settings that have offices. We're also looking at informal workplace where you don't have a structured form, let me put it that way. So we have formal setting workplace and we have informal setting workplace. So with verbal communication, it involves you having a face-to-face conversation with somebody, or with your colleague, or with your supervisor. It can also be phone calls, it can be conference. And with one important thing with verbal communication is that you're able to see people respond to the message that you have, and you also get clarity on what you're having. So for instance, if you're speaking to your boss face to face in verbal communication, he or she is able to give you impact to, or he or she is able to respond to what you're saying. And we have written communications. Written communications is basically about what is written down. So we have emails, we have memos, we have notes. So for instance, if you work in a restaurant, your written communication can be you taking notes of a customer's order. If you work in an office, it depends on the mode, your medium of communication when it comes to writing. So it could be emails, it could be reports, it could be presentations. And we have nonverbal communications. Now, studies have shown that 70% of what you communicate from your nonverbal communication. So your tone, the tone you use to speak or respond to message, the facial expression, how you roll your eyes when somebody speaks, how you cough, all those things. People really, when you're speaking to somebody, your words take it very little of what you're communicating. It's mostly what you are, how you're expressing yourself in terms of your physical movement. Then we have communication at the workplace. So I put here that effective communication is a foundation for success in any workplace. So for a workplace to be successful or to thrive, there has to be a communication, and not just any communication, but it should be communication that is effective. Now, I want to ask a question. How you communicate at home or with your friends or with somebody outside, should it be the same way you communicate with somebody in the office? Because maybe at home, the age of your parent or the age of your siblings is equal to the age of people at your workplace. So how you communicate at home, is it okay to communicate the same way in the office? Anybody to answer?
Hello.
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 Hi.
Hello.
Hello, please, I can hear.
Yeah, you said the way we communicate in the office is the same implies when we are in our various homes or houses.
Imagine that, yes, exactly. How you communicate outside, should it be the same communication when you are in the workplace?
Yes. You know that at workplaces is different from home. In the houses, you can use some jargon words. Maybe, for instance, you are a married woman or a married man. You have some jargon words, you have some terms that you can use for one another to build up the communication in marriage. That's one thing. But at workplaces, it needs to be professional. Like, for instance, you need to send a professional mail or a professional memo, like with words, with choice of words that are underlying as a respectable words, words that sound well, sound okay. So in houses, your various home or houses or the workplaces, communications are different. That's what I would say that understand.
Okay,
Maybe at work.
Thank you very much.
Okay. You're welcome.
All right. Matthew, you raised your hand. Please, you can go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it depends for me. It depends on what you communicate at home, the people you communicate with, and the kind of language you communicate with them. The tone you are talking about, the tone you communicate with your family, and at the workplace, you're talking about them being of equal age. If you have a very good relationship with your family, you don't use harsh words on them. I don't see anything wrong also not replicating that at the workplace, because we are actually people who are trained or grown up to have values that are determinant or define where we are coming from. So if you are someone who doesn't respect, it actually comes from home. So if someone who would snub people, it actually comes from home. So I think it depends on the instance. I understand that as a professional human being, the workplace is not all the time that we can bring home issues, but you can also integrate that when the need arises. So it's not actually about the place, but it's about what you want to do, and most importantly, convey your message in the right way.
Let me ask you a question. So, assuming you work in the same office with your wife, at home you have how you communicate. So, are you saying that when I'm with my wife, when you are with your wife at your workplace, and because you're on those terms of conversation, you should relate as you relate at home?
Yes, so that's why I was saying it depends on the instance. I don't know how you communicate with your wife at home in that instance we are talking about. Yeah, but I think communication most importantly is about conveying your message in the right way and making sure that what you want to convey is being heard in the same appropriate manner. So I don't think it's about the workplace. I think it's about doing it the right way. And if you are talking about communication, we have different forms. If you are friends at the workplace, you can also communicate in that sphere. If you are also maybe having your wife at the workplace, if it is lunch break, you can also have that wife-husband relationship at the lunch break. It's still part of work. That is what I think.
Okay, thank you very much. Chika, you have your hands raised. Hello, Chika, please.
Yeah, hello. Can you hear me, please? All right, thank you. Yeah, so I think it's expected that there will be some difference in terms of how you communicate at home and at the workplace. Generally there should be some politeness, and you should be courteous irrespective of where you are communicating. But at the workplace, the communication at the workplace is formal. And in the house, you are not expected to communicate in any formal way when you are engaging anyone. So largely it is about the language. At the workplace, the language is different, and the way you engage others is more formal and more professional. Because these are people that they are not necessarily your friends. They are not your family members. You don't really have any, personal relationship with them. You just happen to find yourself within a certain space working together. And so the language, should be more professional and very formal. But at the house, it's much informal, and you engage, in a much friendly manner. Even though largely, irrespective of the area, is supposed to be courteous. Yeah, I think there should be some difference.
Thank you very much, Chika. So communication follows.
Hello, Linda. Sorry, but there are some comments in the chat. If I can go ahead and read them, if that's okay. Hi, Linda. Please, can you hear me?
Please go ahead and read it for me.
Okay, all right. So Isaac Kwame says, yes, this depends on the established rapport with immediate work colleagues. So he's answering yes and no. And he says, no, depends on the position of others. Communicating with others should follow the established norm that is seen and acceptable at the workplace. Thank you, Isaac. Aaron Asari says, at the workplace, you can be super cool with your colleagues, but we should still watch how we still communicate there. Just know what to say and when to say it. And Jackson said he would like to contribute, so he can either raise his hand or type in the chat box. Thank you, Aaron and Isaac, for your contributions. Kindly go ahead, Linda. Thank you.
Jackson, please, you have the floor to make a contribution.
All right, thank you for the opportunity. I think at the workplace, the bottom line, as my colleague have already said, is about professionalism. The things we do at our homes cannot be sent to the workplace, because in our homes we are always free to do whatever. Even the family encourages us to be free and do things the way, like, be ourselves. But at the workplace, you cannot go and be, because you don't know, we are from different backgrounds, our cultures are different. So once the bottom line has been set that this is how we behave in the workplace, I think we should all embrace that kind of professionalism, than you going there to, bring what you do at the house to the workplace. I think that wouldn't help, and it will not allow you, the work to be effective. You even asked a question about you having a wife at the workplace.
Yeah.
When you are with your wife at the workplace, it is important to respect the code of conduct at the workplace, because if, let's say, you are the head of that institution, and you do certain things that your subordinate sees that you are trying to bring some informal kind of relationship at the workplace, they may all emulate, and it can create problem at the work site. So to me, in my opinion, I believe that at the work site we should always be more professional. Notwithstanding, we can be polite and be cordial, but we should always be mindful of how we tread at the workplace. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Jackson. Adam, you have your hands raised. Please, you have the floor.
All right, thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes, please, I can hear you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
All
I
right, thank you so
can.
much. I think there is something called social construct, which means that when
Okay.
you are in the house, the way you communicate is different from when you are at the workplace. And also, the way you communicate in the house could be wrong when you manifest the same thing at the workplace. For instance,
Your network was unstable, so I couldn't hear what you were saying, but you can go ahead. Hello, Adam.
because when you see what you see as wrong could be lying factor is that let me communicate with you at the workplace, obeying the standard. Hello,
Yes,
hello,
continue.
hello.
Hello, Adam, please, you can continue.
Okay, okay. So thing called standard operating procedure at the workplace. That's what you must obey when communicating. But the underlying factor is that there should be effectiveness, understanding in the communication. So that aside, if you come to the house too, there's a protocol as to how you should, but the underlying factor also is that you should be able to understand yourself. So basically that's my contribution to this.
Okay, thank you very much. I see a question in the chat box. And before that, Wisdom made the contribution that communication at workplace follows certain codes of ethics. So Isaac has thrown a question to all of us on this call. He's asking, is it therefore safe to follow the saying that when in Rome, do as the Romans do? He's asking that can this be linked to the fact where one has to follow a set code of ethics? So this question is to all of us. If you have an answer, please go ahead.
Hello.
Please, can you repeat the question for me?
So the question is in the chat box, actually. He's
Hello.
asking, hello.
Yeah, it's asking whether it is therefore safe to follow this saying when
Yes, like when you go to Rome, do the, so for instance, where you are in an
when you are
understand.
home, when you are home, when you are home, and you want to maintain a peaceful relationship with your family, with your wife, with your children, they are all learning from you. You set as an example, as a leader to the team in the house. So you can do as the same Rome also does, because you are home and you need to be polite to your wife, be polite to your children. They also take it from you and take it out there. So I don't think it's right. So it's right. You can do the same as you are home. Sometimes little things do offend one another. Maybe you continue to put that one with and all that. One day you say things that is not offended, and you might offend your wife or you might offend your son. And that child or your wife or your mom or your sister will take it personal. Then they will be harboring that. So if you want to maintain peaceful relationship in your various, then you can also practice what you do at work at school to the various houses.
Very much. Anything else to make a contribution to the question that Isaac asked?
Yes.
Please, can I go on?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, thank you. I think pertinent to Isaac Kwame's question, if you go to Rome, you have to do what the Romans do. That is right. I was saying it in the earlier conversation that contribution that in organizations or maybe in the house setting, wherever, there's somewhat protocols you're supposed to follow. When you come to my organization, you're supposed to follow the standard operating procedures. But the underlying factor, as I said earlier on, is to make sure that you communicate in a way that I understand. Follow the protocol, just that make yourself clearer so that any other person can understand you. So I think if you go to Rome, do what the Romans do. Just that make sure that you are clearer to them. You are clear so that everyone can understand you. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you very much for your contribution.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I want to contribute to that question.
So I believe that in everything you do, they say practice makes perfect. So if you are in the house and your code of ethics are not okay, definitely it is possible you may develop the same option when you go to the workplace. So assuming in your domestic setting, you don't speak the right way to people, you don't regard people, it is very possible that when you come to the workplace setting, even though there are code of conduct or there are code of ethics, it is likely you are also going to speak or communicate the same way you communicate right from home to the workplace. So that saying, do what Romans do when you go to Rome, it works everywhere. You practice what you want to preach out so that it becomes part and parcel of you wherever you find yourself. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Linda. Okay, so last contribution.
Hi, good morning. There are standards to follow. My name is Amanda. There are standards to follow everywhere in this world. And another angle you can look at when you go to Rome, do what Romans do, is to think about the fact that every workplace or profession has its mode of communication. So, for example, the soldiers have their mode of communication. In that regard, when you enter the military, which is quote and unquote the figurative Rome, then you do what the military people, as in the Romans over there, do. When you enter the legal profession, they have a way they communicate. So when you enter that room, you speak like the way the Romans there speak. So just adding my voice to the communication so far, that there are standards and there are also registers for different professions and different workplaces that when you enter, you follow suit. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amanda, for that contribution. Now, we have information flow at the workplace. That is how communication or information flow from one person to another. So you can talk of we having colleagues, supervisors, and departmental heads and CEO. Now, in some organization settings, you may not have this chain. Some may be just colleague and a CEO, an employee and a CEO. Some may not have departmental heads. Some may not have supervisors, or some may have all this chain. So it is imperative for you to know the chain of communication in your workplace. So when as a colleague, you have to communicate information. First, it goes to your supervisor. Your supervisor relay that information to departmental heads, and the information gets to the CEO. In a case where you don't have a supervisor and departmental head, then it would just be an employee speaking to a CEO. So, for instance, if there's a misunderstanding in a workplace and you have supervisors, assuming we have all these four chain in your workplace, and you as an employee, your father is the CEO, and there's a misunderstanding. Oh, chin, that you pick your bag. My father is the CEO, so I'm going to report to whatever that is happening. Or because you have a relation with somebody in the departmental head, you skip your supervisor and go and speak to this departmental head because of the relationship you have with that person. So if you're seeking to be in a work environment, or speaking to be in a workplace, always have it at the back of your mind that there are communication follow a certain chain, and look at what your workplace has and follow that chain to communicate. Now we have formal and informal types of communication, both internally and externally. So in your workplace setting, we have a formal communication where your communication is sort of planned. So we have now, as you write, when you come to work, this is our chain of communication. So it follows a particular chain. Then in that same that same internal communication, we have informal communication where you meet somebody in the hallway. So we speak face to face. You have phone calls, or in your organization, you communicate with people outside. So you have face to face. Basically, is devoid of writing or emails, is face-to-face conversation. And then we have external, where you speak to people outside of your organization. That is, people that are in contact with the organization. So you have customers, you would have business partners. These are people externally, and you can communicate with them formally or informally. So formally, where you have conferences, you organize conferences through emails, you send them letters or report. You have your website, for instance, where you put information there, or you have third party, use social media to convey your message. Then we have informal in the external, where you meet them face to face and talk to them about that. So just as I said, know the channel that your work office communicates and be sure to communicate in that essence. Okay, a hand has been raised. Abena Linda, hello.
Sorry, it was for the old submission I made.
Okay. Okay, some people made comment in the chat room. I'm not seeing it, so forgive me if I read. So Lydia Forger says, I think so. I think it's back to the Roman thing where he's asking where should we do what the Romans do. She says, I think so, because there are laws and rules everywhere you go, and they were set up for a reason. So it is best to do what you're expected to do. Thank you very much, Lydia. And Abdul Hakim says, for communication to be established, there should be an understanding of the message that is sent across from the sender in the workplace communication, and is expected to be formal as possible, since there are ethics to be followed and the professionality of employees at stake. At other jurisdictions, like home communication would have to be a little more informal and more formal when you're at nightclub with a couple of friends. The important thing is your ability to send a message to be understood by the sender in the manner you expect them to understand. Thanks, Abdul. Thank you very much. You made my work simple. Thank you. I saw a hand raised. Or Solomon.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Yes, please, Solomon, I'm here.
Okay.
Yes, please, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can
Yes,
hear
I
you
can.
clearly.
So
I just joined. My network wasn't stable then, so I just established a stable network and decided to join.
Okay, thank you. I'm talking about Solomon Akutinga.
Yes, please. Yes, please, I'm here.
Yes.
Yes. The previous two slides, I saw that effective communication. I would like to get a clarification on what makes a communication effective. Let's say I have communicated I've communicated something to you. At what instance would you say that communication is effective or is not effective?
Okay, thank you very much, Solomon. It's part of my presentation, so when we get there, I would explain that to you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you too. So now we have a generational timeline. Usually it's a study that has come up where in our work setting, we have all sort of people or all sort of ages in the workplace. If you've heard of Gen Z, those things, it's we call it a generational timeline. That is the times in which people are born and how they communicate in the workplace. So the first people that we have, this study is according to Pew. Please, can you hear me? Hello?
Hi.
Hello, Linda. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so I was saying that there are generational timelines, and this study is according to Pew Research Center, that is PUW Research Center, where they came up with this. And they're saying that in the workplace, you find all these people in the workplace. So we have silent generation. Most of the time, they are referred to as traditionalists. Now, these people are people that are born between the ages of between the 1928 1945, and they have their way of communication. We also have baby boomers, we have Generation X, we have millennials, and we have Generation Z. And each of them have their unique way of communication. And let me note that there's other studies that have shown that there's an alpha generation, but I'm not looking at that. I'm just looking at what is here. And you can be born in a Gen Z, that is Generation Z, but what I have listed there may not necessarily apply to you. So it really varies as to how you communicate. Now, when you have an older person at your workplace, somebody born in the silent generation, most of the time, these people like communication that are face-to-face or handwritten. So you have a boss who is 70 plus, or you have a colleague who's 70 plus that you're working with. You should know how they communicate. Usually when you send them emails or sometimes handwritten notes, they are okay with that, but it wouldn't be really effective. That is, it depends on the person, but mostly people born in that range like face-to-face conversations. And we have baby boomers. These people usually prefer phone calls. So you hear them always on the time making phone calls or communicating with you on phone calls. They like face-to-face too, but phone calls exceeds that. And each of them have their work style. So they're workaholic, they're very ambitious people. And these people are people that are really between retirement. So there are some that are cruising retirement. They have saved up more. So mostly they are traveling, they are doing that. And there are other people that have not really saved much for retirement. So you see them maybe in Ghana here, if you're 60, you're supposed to go on retirement, but it doesn't happen like that. So you see people taking on task because they feel that they have to do more. Then we have Generation X, people born between 1965 and 1980, where these people are usually, they are self-reliant. They have been trained that you have to be responsible, you have to be on task, you have to help others. So most of the time they take on workloads, even if they have things to do, they keep on wanting to take on more loads. And these people, their form of communication is basically emails, or you have to give them a schedule. Then we have millennials. Millennials are people born in 1981 and 1996, and they're very competitive. They like to express themselves when they're talking, and most of the time they like texting. They don't really like phone call conversations when it comes to work. So they want you to text them, and they want to find meaning in what they are doing. And then the last people is Generation Z, and these people are innovative people, they're entrepreneurial, and these people, they consume information in bits because they are used to technology. They had no option. Technology was there. So most of the time, social media, all forms of Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and because they consume information in bits, if you're talking too much, you don't really want to they don't pay close attention when the information is cumbersome. So you have people in lecture or when they say, hey, this lecture is for, because they think that the man is speaking too much, and they're used to having information given to them in bits. And you have some people who are born within those ages, but they're not really, they're people that may want information that are cumbersome. So really, it depends on the person that you're speaking to. So when it comes to that, one thing I should let you be aware is that be aware of the person that you're communicating with and know how their communication style. So you know how they respond to emails, you know how they respond to your communication style. So be sure to adapt to how they communicate and communicate with that as well. Then we have a communication style. Now, communication style has to do with how people communicate. We have visual, we have kinesthetic, and we have auditory. Now, visual are people that when you're communicating with them, they imagine. So when they are trying to communicate or talk to you about something, they already have a preconceived image of how they want to communicate with you. So they are thinking in pictures, they want visuals where they want to see what you're doing. They want to have a clear understanding of what you're communicating in pictures, should be in writings. So usually when you're speaking to these people, be sure to either write to them so that they see what you're doing, or show them in pictures what you're trying to communicate. So you're talking to somebody, you may see the person using phrases like, oh, yeah, it appears to me that we should do this in this way. When you look at this, I think that we should look at it in another way. Now, when somebody speaks like that, you should know that that person is a visual thinker. Then we have kinesthetic people. These people talk based on how they are feeling. So mostly they react with their emotions. So when they are talking, is how they have consumed the information, whether good or bad. So when you're talking to people like this, be sure to know their mood and how they would react to your message. Then we have auditory people. Auditory people are people that every single word you say matter to them. They wouldn't let it go. So there are people that when you're speaking, they're listening to what you're saying. They're looking at your reaction. They're looking at your tone of voice. So when you're speaking with them, you have to be sure to understand what you're saying so that you be able to communicate it effectively. Now, there are people that are all three. They can be visual, they can be kinesthetic, they can be auditory. So they can be everywhere. So you have to adapt or know the kind of person you're talking to, how they communicate, and be sure to communicate as they do. So as I'm sitting here, I can see that I am a kinesthetic person because I talk based on my feelings. And so I want to hear from you. How are you based on the three of them? And tell me who you are and how you communicate. Do we have Angola on the call? Somebody mentioned Angola. If you're Angola, can you tell me how you communicate? If Angola is not there, somebody mentioned Korea. Or some people have forgotten the name of countries they gave me.
Yeah, I'm here.
Korea, Korea, please. Where do you fall your communication style?
Okay. So should I say in between being kinesthetic and then auditory? That's how I communicate. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else?
Linda, please, as a comment from Isaac Kwame.
Okay, Isaac.
Yes, he says visual communication style in a formal setting can be the graphical reports we send to businesses and even the infographics that you, the presenter, Linda, are using for this presentation. So those are his thoughts on the communication styles.
Okay, thank you very much, Isaac.
Yes, I would also say I'm a visual communicator. Perfectly describes the way I communicate.
Okay, so you think in pictures. So before you spoke in there, you have already thought what you want to say, right?
Exactly.
Okay, and how are you able to communicate your pictures, your ideas to people? How do you communicate to them? Do you draw to them, or how do you get people to understand what you're saying?
In fact, if I'm really going to communicate something and I don't have a clear picture of what I'm going to say, I might end up saying something different or finding it difficult to explain myself. So once I have a clear picture in my mind, I just start to say what I have to explain, and it flows very easily because it's like I'm looking at a picture and I'm just describing the picture in my mind. Yes, so that is how it works.
Okay, so when you're speaking to somebody who is an auditory, where theirs is primarily what you say, like the words you say, or how do you communicate with that person?
Okay, so the key is that I have the picture in my mind, but once I have the picture in my mind, I am able to translate it to the auditory or any other form to let the other person understand it the way he or she wants.
Anybody else?
Yeah, Linda here. So I think I communicate best in auditory. Mostly what you say, your gestures in how you said the thing to me will imply what you mean to me. So sometimes my understanding of what you said may not be the same thing, may not be the same meaning you are trying to communicate to me. But then because of your gestures, the manner in which you spoke, your tone, so I perceive it in a different angle. And maybe the communicator is also trying to mean something else. Yeah.
Right. Isaac has put a comment. He said kinesthetic communication style in a formal setting. Per my prior knowledge, this involves hands-on stuff, concrete example, practical experiences. Isaac, please, can you elaborate on what you're saying? I like your contribution, so I want to hear your voice. Can you? Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else to make a comment about it, or tell me your style of communication? We have Breeze on the call, right? Can he or she tell me how she communicates?
Hi, Grace here. So I am more of a visual person. So I have to see the picture or picture something in my head before I can explain what I have to say. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, Grace. So we cannot talk about communication and leave technology out, because technology has become part of us, and in our workspace too, we largely communicate via technology. So while you're doing that, you have to be careful to know when and how to use that. So we have positive effect of the technology in our workspace. So be sure to use appropriate language and tone in your emails. And also when you're communicating via technology, respect others' time and their availability when you're scheduling a meeting or messages. And also be sure to go straight to the point on what you're saying. Then we have importance of effective communication. Now, when you're able to speak well, or when you're able to relay your information in an effective manner, or in a way that is both understood by people that are internally and people that are outside communication. First, we have one of the importance I put there is increased employee awareness. So in a work setting, the employees are able to understand the communication channels that they have. They are able to understand how they are to communicate with their superior, with their colleagues, or even in teams. And so people are aware of the environment and how they communicate. Now, being aware also leads to stronger decision making. So now we know our channel of communication. So when we want to make a decision, we are quick to resolve issues, or we're quick to provide decisions because we know how the communication channel in the environment. That also leads to a healthier work relationship where, as a team, we're able to coordinate or make contribution or be able to communicate with each other because we understand the communication challenges that we have. And when there's a healthier work relationship at the workplace, it improves the customer relationship that we have with the people outside. So we get to establish a clear communication with our customers or business partners. And that also leads to quicker problem solving stage where you're able to resolve every issue that a customer has or every issue that is happening in the organization, because there's healthier work relationship, we have stronger decision making. And when we're able to have quicker solving problem, then it leads to productivity. Now work gets done fast. We increase whatever that we're doing, because when problem comes, we are quicker to solve those problems. Then we have lesser misunderstanding because we understand the communication channel and we understand how each other, how everyone communicates. So there wouldn't be any much misunderstanding at the workplace. Then we have enhanced professional image. So when we are able to communicate effectively inside and externally, the image of the company or the organization that you're in becomes very professional, and people get to patronize whatever that the goods and services that you provide. So we have some barriers that, please, if you have any question, let me know as I speak. Now we have barriers to how we communicate sometimes, and things hinder us from being effective in our communication. So I put down language. Can anybody tell me how language affects or hinders us from communicating effectively? Anybody? Or if you think that language is not a barrier to you, let me know.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I think language is one of the greatest barrier when it comes to communication. Because for communication to be effective, the recipient must be able to understand perfectly well what you are trying to say, because any little mistake in what you are saying could bring a misunderstanding, which we don't want in communication. So here is the case: you are speaking to someone who doesn't really understand the language you are speaking. Let's say an English person speaking to someone who speaks French. Maybe the person has a little bit background in English. No matter what you do, it will be very difficult for you to express yourself very well for that person to understand you. So if there is a language barrier, if you guys don't speak the same language, or the language that you are speaking to the recipient, that person doesn't understand it fully, it's very difficult for you to express yourself, make yourself clear, and most of the time it might end up in misunderstanding. Yeah, so I think language is a very big barrier when it comes to communication. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you very much. Listen, you made my work simpler. I don't have to add to what you have said because you've explained it perfectly. So culture or language, if anybody, sorry, I think some hands are raised. So sorry. I'll start with Adam. Adam, you had your hand raised. Please, the floor is yours.
Yes. Okay, thank you so much for this. I think culture is one of the biggest barriers to communication because let's say, as I was speaking, gesture, but in some cultures, when you gesture, it's like you are disrespecting maybe an elderly. So in this manner, it's actually impedes, let me say, some barriers or create some barriers to communication. Maybe you like this when speaking to you, I may gesture and then you will take it normally, but there's some people when you're talking and then you are gesticulating or maybe moving your hands for back and forth, it is sending some kind of wrong or wrongful thoughts, or maybe some kind of misunderstanding, or maybe some kind of disrespectful tones.
Okay, thank you very much.
Which might not actually work. So that is one of the greatest.
Okay, thank you very much, Adam. Abna, please, you have the floor.
Yes. So I wanted to talk a bit on the language.
Yes.
The lady who just spoke said the first aspect, and then I want to add to it that sometimes it doesn't really have to be the differences in tongues, as in I'm an Ewe, this person is an Ashanti. Yeah, but sometimes the business or the company has its own language, like technical terms they use. So let's say you are a business and you are communicating to a prospective client. The person may not necessarily understand some of the terms used by the business. So as a business, for you to have an effective communication, you have to develop strategy to make your terminologies understandable to the person or the client you are trying to communicate. And that, I think, when you do that, it will lead to an effective communication.
Thank you very much.
But aside that, I had a question. So my question was on the cycle of effective communication. I want to ask, so let's assume I have to communicate something to you, maybe through mail or text message, whatever. I have sent the information, but then I don't receive a reply or a response. Will you term it as an effective communication or ineffective?
Okay, thank you very much for the question. So I'll answer that, but let me have others speak and then I will come back to you. Margaret Mensah.
All right, thank you for the platform. I want to talk about what my sister said about language being a barrier to communication. It used to be a barrier to effective communication in the olden days, but in this current time, where there are translators, we have people who are watching Korean series with translators. They are able to understand whatever they are saying with subtitles and all that. So I feel language nowadays is not, even though it is, but it is not solely like a barrier to communication. Please, do you hear me?
Okay, thank you. Yes, please, I did. Thank you. Right, Bedu.
Yeah, hello.
Hello, Bright.
Yeah, for me, I have problem with that of the language. Yeah. Because mostly you will speak to others and then at the end of, let's say, the conversation, they will still be asking you, like, what do you mean by that? So mostly at first I use like you start a conversation with someone, and then because of the terms that you will be using, they will ask you to explain further. So it got to a time that I have to stop, let's say, speaking in public or maybe engaging people, because mostly you will speak and then they will ask you either break it down, do this, and then it got to a time that, like, because of that, now I'm a talkative, because you explain something like you mean it in a simple term, but the person will ask you to explain further. So I don't know, how do you overcome that? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else to make a contribution?
Linda, there are some comments in the chat, if you would permit me to read them.
Baba, please, you can go ahead.
Okay, so Isaac says someone whose native language is French can't communicate effectively, into brackets, fully expressed, to someone whose native language is Spanish. And Aaron has a different opinion where he says sometimes he thinks language is not a barrier. I mean, we are in a technological age, so you can just hook up Google Translator and you'll be heard. So language is never a barrier. That's interesting. Pardon me. Sadia Osam says, to add to what our sister said, using terms that are not familiar to your recipient is also a barrier to what you are communicating. Thank you. And Isaac says he's replying to someone's comments that says, unless you are using a real-time translator, and even that isn't readily available to the general populace, what if it's an auditory style being employed? The latency involved will be large because one has to go and type, have it translated and reply, which is too long. So he says it's still a barrier, because in a real-time situation, it's going to be stressful using a translator, even with AI-enabled audio-to-text translation. Thank you all for the comments in the chat section. Linda, you can kindly go ahead. Thank you.
Margaret, you asked. Okay, so Margaret asked that if she sends an email and she doesn't get a response, is that can I call that as ineffective communication? So I would say that it really depends on the person or how your message went. So you have to find out if the email was sent and the person was able to view what you have sent. And also you have to sort of follow back. So communication is two ways. It's not only somebody sending the information, but you have to get feedback. So if you do not get the feedback or the person hasn't been able to respond to your email, we have what we call constant follow-up or constant feedback. So you either resend an email to see if the person would respond, or if you could use another channel to ask the person the same email you're looking for, and you do that. So you don't have to restrict yourself to one way of communication. If email does not work, resort to another form of communication that the person may see and respond to whatever communication that you want to read in. Then somebody, I've forgotten the name of the person, apologies. You asked that when you speak, you really don't get, people don't understand what you're saying. They ask you to break it down. Oh, okay. A hand has been raised. Yes,
please, I'm here. I wanted to talk about the language being a barrier. I want to talk about the language being the barrier to effective communication.
Okay.
I've seen that some people were having some. For me, I speak both English and French. Okay. So sometimes I type what I type in English, when I send it to Google Translate it to French, it gives me a different. So language is also a barrier to effective communication.
Okay, thank you. Isiansa.
All right, thank you very much, Linda. I wanted to contribute to your response to the question from the lady who asked, if I send an email and I don't hear back, is that effective communication? It's a tricky one. When somebody doesn't respond, it could be that genuinely they haven't seen the mail. So it's just communicating that they are oblivious to the fact that you sent them an email, might be in the junk mail, spam, whatever. And on the other hand, when somebody doesn't respond to your mail, it could actually communicate a lot, but it's not healthy communication. If you send me an email and I don't respond because I don't feel like responding, I'm upset with you, I don't want to talk to you, it is better and healthier to communicate that to you rather than to adopt a passive aggressive stance, such as silence. So some people use silence to punish others. Silence so that, you don't have a response. You don't know whether I'm in agreement with whatever you are asking in the email or not. And so people do that. It is a form of communication. It's telling you that maybe the person is upset. So you have to give people the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they haven't seen it. Sometimes I know myself. Sometimes I see it and I say, this requires me sitting down and, putting together a thoughtful response. So I'll get to it later, and then I forget. Sometimes it might be forgetfulness. Sometimes it's actually the person communicating that they don't want to engage. But that's not healthy. So as young professionals, it's important to make sure that we become responsive. It's something that we all have to work on. I know I have to work on that so that we become responsive. If I don't want to engage, if let's say I have questions or I feel that this matter is too serious that it needs a sit-down conversation, I should actually articulate that to you rather than leave you hanging. All right, so that would be my response to whether that is effective communication. I would relabel it and say it is communication, it's unhealthy communication. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doc. Amanda, you have your hands raised. Please, the floor is yours.
I want to contribute technology and language. Truthfully, language really is a barrier. I mean, as far back as the Tower of Babel days, it was language that disrupted the building of that tower. Today, technology has tried to help us communicate with people in different parts of the world. So you can use Google Translate. But just like Rocket mentioned, there are times when you would type something and take it to Google Translate, and it will give you something we call a transliteration. So it takes the words that you input and gives you very, very literal, direct interpretation. It doesn't give you the message behind the words, or some people will say the import of the message or the spirit behind the letter. So imagine you're having an agreement with someone in its different languages and you're employing technology and you type your argument in there and it translates it to the other person, and it makes the matter worse when it just directly translates the words. So language really is a barrier. Technology helps to take it down a bit, helps us understand one another, but it doesn't completely erase the fact that language in itself can be a barrier. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amanda. Margaret.
Thank you very much for another opportunity. I want to add something to what my brother said about emails, like being silent on emails. I want to talk about the recruiters that when we send our CVs and cover letters to, and they decide to ghost us, they are not doing us any good at all. You will not know what you did wrong, but they will not even respond to your email, whether it has been received. We unfortunately, or we regret to inform you, sometimes you don't know what to do on your CV. So I suggest that as we are growing up, we should learn how to communicate back, so that maybe you did something wrong on your CV, it needs to be communicated so that we can change it and probably land on a job someday. Thank you.
May I respond to that, Linda?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
I think that's a brilliant contribution. And so let me apologize on behalf of all recruiters and give a little context around that. Sometimes you post a job and you have, let's say, within the first hour, almost 100 CVs. And so what most recruitment companies like Axis would do is to set an auto response. So when you get it, you can tell that it's not, a personal response typed out to you, and they come back and say, thank you for your application. If you're shortlisted, we will reach out to you, etc. The nature of the process is such that it's not always possible. Once you put out a job and you have a lot of applications, to one by one send people feedback on their CVs, etc. Which is why sessions like these are very important. We've had career CV reviews as part of the career clinic sessions. At Axis, we try to share feedback. We have a career CV checklist that we'll share with people. Once we interview and we feel that you need to clean up your CV, and it's something that used to be on our website. And if it's not there, we'll make sure that it's back up. Just a checklist that says, check, have you done this? Have you done this? Have you done that? And then for us to spend time and go in depth and help you to clean the CV, that's where the value of joining sessions like these, comes, so that recruiters may not always be able to, one-on-one give feedback to everybody who applies, because your inbox fills or the system fills within hours once you post a role. So as a recruiter, that's just to give you the view from the other side. But please forgive us. I know that we can get more intelligent systems that will respond and perhaps give you feedback, but we haven't achieved quite that perfect response yet. So this is an apology on behalf of all the recruiters you've met in the past and those you will meet in the future. And I hope that through this Ghana Grows Career Clinic, as you engage, and if you need help with a CV review, do reach out to us, and we hope that this becomes a platform that helps you address some of those challenges. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bill. Margaret, you still have your hands raised. Do you have another question or contribution?
Yes, please. Since we are talking about communication, I would like Axis Grow to check their emails that they've been sending us. They give us the time that the meeting is going to start, but they don't add when the meeting is supposed to end to it, and we keep anticipating. So I would like Axis to check that for me. Thank you.
So we continue with some of the barriers that hinders us from communicating effectively. So we have perceptions, which is where people have preconceived idea or notion about certain people. So before somebody speak, based on the person's cultural background or something that you have noticed, you have an already mind of why the person is speaking that way or why the person is communicating in such a manner. So you don't really look beyond that, but you're just looking at what the person is and who the person is. So you're unable to clearly get what the person is trying to communicate. Then we have physical bias, which has to do with noise, where in your environment, maybe you have your workplace is situated in a noisy area, or there's so much noise in your environment, you're unable to have effective communication. So I've put some tips here that can help you to communicate effectively. The first one I have is that you have to be active and a good listener. By that, I mean that when you're talking to somebody, be sure to maintain eye contact with the person, not so much so that the person will feel uncomfortable because you're looking straight into their eye. So what you can do is that you can look in between their eyes or their eyebrows or above your head, but be sure to have that sort of eye contact with that person. And when somebody is speaking, do not have constant interruptions to what the person is saying, unless of course you want to have a clear understanding, but let people have the floor when they're speaking so that you'll be able to clearly understand what you're trying to communicate. I've also put here 7 C's that can help us when you're communicating. So we have clear, which means that let your message be as simple as possible. Do not put so much information into one. So whatever that you're going, go straight to the point. What do you want to communicate? Say that, and do not let people, the receiver does not have to assume things to interpret what you're trying to say. So be simple as possible. Then we have correct. Correctness has to do with making sure that you avoid all grammatical and typographical mistakes. So when you're writing, make sure your sentences are correct. Make sure there are no spelling mistakes, and then make sure that you don't mispronounce and misspell somebody's name or give them different titles. That is, if you're writing a message. So be sure to be correct, or correct whatever mistake that you have in your message before you relay it. Then we have complete. When I talk complete, I mean that let your message be detailed. Give as much as information as you can so that the person would be able to rightly respond to what you're trying to communicate. So giving information in bits is a waste of time, where you say something, I hold back, even if this lots of time. So be sure to be detailed in whatever that you're trying to communicate. Then we have concise. Concise is be prim and proper. Whatever you're saying, stick to the point. You write long sentences where, in essence, the thing just goes straight to the point, that because of ABC, I cannot do that. Don't come and tell us stories where your uncle, your auntie came in, and because of that, you don't have the right mind to think. It's really unnecessary. So just go straight to the point and tell us what you're trying to say. Then we have concrete. Concrete is be sure of the idea that you want to communicate and have faith in what you're saying. So if you don't understand what you're saying, it will be very difficult for you to relay what you're saying. So understand what I'm saying, be sure of what the idea that I want to say so that I would rightly communicate. Then we have coherent or coherence. Coherence is, it should follow an order. Don't start from Z and come to A, middle. Tell me in a way that I'll follow what you're saying. Because if I'm unable to grasp what you're saying, because you started from the bottom, now you've come to the beginning, I'll be wondering why you took certain step or certain decision, because you have not formally or rightly told me the processes that you went to in giving us that information. Then the last thing I have is courteous, where you have to be respectful in what you're communicating, irrespective of the person that you're talking to. So say things having in mind that you want to show respect to what somebody that is saying. So I want to say my CEO has come to me to make a budget. We are planning a trip outside, and he's given me the platform or the mandate to prepare a budget for us to undertake a trip. Now he's giving you 1,000 cedis to start with. So he's asked you to prepare a budget and come to for approval. But you notice that the 1,000 cedis is not enough for that trip. So based on the 7 effective communications I've given, how would you talk to your boss, or how would you release that information to your boss? I just want 2 answers because of time. So when you're presenting the budget, be sure to be clear and go straight to the point. Give me the details that I need, be concise, follow a logical order, and then be courteous. So assuming I'm your CEO, I've given you 1,000 students to make a budget for a trip that the organization to undertake, and you think that 1,000 students is not enough. So how would you communicate that to me? Just 2 answers. Oh, the question is an examination question, so you need time to think. Anybody to help me out?
Yeah, hello. When you're talking, the line was breaking, so if you could repeat the question again, that would be okay.
So I'm saying that I've given you 1,000 students to make a budget for your work colleagues or the organization to go on a trip. but you notice that the 1,000 cedis is not sufficient. So I want you to communicate back to your CEO why you need more money to support the trip. So in your presentation, go straight to the point, give me a logical order why the 1,000 cedis is enough. So based on the 7 C's of communications I've given, you can give me an example. Please, was it clear?
Yes.
Okay.
It was clear. So first of all, I'll just start by
your network.
Like the first C.
Aaron, are you speaking, but we can't hear you because of your network? Anybody else? Or you're all thinking about it, so I should move on to the next one. So while you think, I've put the, is somebody speaking? Hello?
I really don't know how to put it, but if the money is not enough, I think what I would do is to write down a clear budget on the things that will be needed or how you'll be spending the money. So if it's maybe in a trip to somewhere, maybe the transportation, you put it down. You have to do a correct budget. If you have to go ahead and make inquiries about all the things you have to do, you have to make inquiries and know the exact prices, everything, detailed one, so that you can present a detailed presentation, let me put it that way, to your boss, explaining to him the reason why the money will be enough. And if you have to plead, you plead for them to increase the money for you. So I think, in my opinion, that's what I would do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So I put down observance. It means that you should be able to read the environment that you're in. So develop a skill that you should know how communication flow in environment. And so you, if you are aware of what is going on in the environment, you'll be able to communicate effectively. I also put there emotional intelligence, where you understand yourself and the person that you're speaking to, and you're able to give out clear information or clear response to whatever is going on. We have self-efficacy, where you should be confident in what you're saying and be sure to understand what you're saying so that you'll be able to communicate effectively. Now, in your workplace too, you should know the right source of medium to use when you're communicating, so that at the end of the day, you don't say things or you don't use certain forms of communication channels that wouldn't be appropriate in that setting. And then also, importantly, focus on the your non-verbal communication. When somebody is talking to you, how you roll your eyes, how you're posturing, whether your hands are behind you, your arms are folded, whether you've parted your lips or not, those kind of things really matter when you're communicating. So be conscious of how you're looking or how your face is, so that it doesn't give out a wrong signal to the person that you're communicating with or the person that is receiving your information. And lastly, send and receive constructive feedback. The people that are communicating, they communicate all right, but they don't really like to be given feedback as to how they communicate, or when somebody is trying to correct them, their communication style or the work that they have done, they're really uncomfortable about it. But for communication to be effective, you should be open to criticism. So be sure to accept feedback from whoever that you're communicating. And when you're able to follow these steps, and there are more steps too, but when you're able to follow this one, I believe that is really going to help you in your communication, especially at the workplace. Now, I'll leave question and answers for the last thing that we'll do. But before I started, you mentioned that you recall that this career clinic is as a result of a program that we are working on, which is the Ghana Roots program. So a colleague of mine will continue the discussion about it. It'll just take about 2 minutes of your time. Then when we are done, we leave room for questions and then answers. Thank you.
Okay, so hi, my name is Gracia. So Grace Gracia. I'm the anonymous Grace Gracia. So I'm here to actually talk about the reason why we have met this afternoon or this morning. And it's on the program that we are running called the Ghana Grows Program. So I need you to understand that the Ghana Grows Program, anything that should come to mind is the fact that it's agric and then ATVs.
Please, can you hear me? Can you all hear me? Okay, that's fine. So yes, Agric and ATVET. And to answer Margaret's question, the career clinic starts at 11 a.m. and ends at 1 p.m. So I have barely 24 minutes to just explain what I've come to talk about, and then we are done. So yes, so the Agric and ATVET is agriculture and agricultural technical vocational education and training. Yes. And I mean, the sectors in the Agric and the ATVET value chain, we have from pre-production all the way to consumption. We have education, planting, food, storage, hospitality, and all these you can see fall under the Agric and then the ATVET value chain. Now, we want to actually speak on, further on the Ghana Growth Program, and it's a program that's running for the next 3 years. And it's in collaboration with the MasterCard Foundation and Springboard Roadshow Foundation, as well as Limehouse. Yes, and it's a youth-led program that's inspiring young people like yourself, like myself, to discover career opportunities and supporting them in pursuing decent and fulfilling jobs, not just any job at all, but then jobs that are decent and fulfilling in agribusiness, and then the ATVET sector. So, some of the objectives that we seek to achieve is to provide skills training. So what we just experienced now is one of the trainings that we provide under this program. Secondly, is to identify job and business opportunities in the Agric and ATVET sector, and to create a database of potential job seekers and a database of potential jobs and business opportunities in the ATVET sectors, and to finally transition young women and men into jobs in Agric and then the ATVET. Now, someone may ask, what's in it for me? If I join this program, dear, what am I going to gain from it? How am I going to enjoy this program? And we'll look at skills training. So we provide skills training in terms of the career toolkit, where we talk about CV writing. Months ago, we spoke about CV writing and interview skills, what to do before an interview, during an interview, and after an interview. And then we have personal effectiveness, where topics like self-management and time management, as well as emotional intelligence. Then interpersonal skills, communication skills, what we talked about today. And then workplace survival, how businesses work, and then business communication. And finally, special add-on technical or vocational skills. Now this, as you can see on your screen, is, let me just say, a summary of the Ghana Growth Program and what we do. So first of all, we identify the job opportunities, and this happens when the employers join the program. They become a part of the program, and then they let us know the roles that they want to fill, or roles that are available, or training that they want us to provide for them. The second thing we do is that we build a database of young job seekers, and this happens when job seekers like yourself or young people like yourself, join this program. You fully join this program. When you do that, it helps us build a detailed database, not just any shabby database, but a detailed one. The third thing that we do is to provide in-person job readiness skills, or even training in general. So I remember last 2 weeks or so, we treated building resilience and agility, how to adapt in a new environment. And these are things that we treat. And we actually teach, or should I say, train young ones who have joined this program, or even young ones who haven't, and then they join the program as well. Finally, we deploy the job seekers. So once you join these trainings and you are building yourself up, gaining employability skills and all of that, then you are placed into a job, or we send you to a client, and then, you have a job. So that's basically the entire summary of the Ghana Growth Program. We are finally moving to the fact that the program is for women and PWDs. And this program has been carefully drawn for all young people, and additionally, women and persons with disabilities are strongly encouraged to participate with full force. It means that when you're in this, we are going all the way, we are going all out to make sure that we help ourselves together in order to just gradually reduce unemployment rates in Ghana. Yes, so that's basically the Ghana Growth Program, and I'm hoping that I met my time. Yes, I did. Thank you so much. In the meantime, we'll just take a few questions if there's any, and then we ask for feedback. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Gracia. So if you have any question, if you have any comments or feedback, you can share that with me. Or contribution. Anybody has a question, a contribution, a feedback, okay, then it means that all that I've said you all heard, and you don't have any question, you don't have any feedback. So when you go into the chat room, we've put a link there. We want you to, if you haven't joined the program, you can click on that link to register. And then also we have put in a link there that you give us feedback on today's session. And if you want any other topic to be treated, you can also put that over there. So if there are no questions, what we're going to do is that we want to keep records of the people that we have spoken to, or we want to see your face. So as you can see my face, I want you to turn on your camera so that we take a little picture, then we are done. So if you could all turn on your videos for me.
Do you have a question?
You have a question. Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Okay, thank you very much. Hello, please, I'm listening. Okay, looks like the person's network is not really stable, so I'm not able to hear him. But I want to find out, please, was the lesson understood, or whatever that you did, was it understood, since there are no questions?
Yeah, I think it was me. I wasn't actually just say hello. I was just responding to that anyway. But well, I just asked a quick one concerning the Ghana Growth Program. I don't know. It's quite new to me. I don't know if I join. What is the requirements for joining? What are the modalities? Even though you talked about the benefits and what you intend to do, but what are the modalities for joining? What kind of people you look out for? And concerning the communication session too, we talked about effective communication. So we talked about nonverbal cues or nonverbal communication, but you didn't actually elaborate much on that. So I would love to maybe hear more about that, and how does that impact our effectiveness when communicating? Because there is this saying that we can't afford not to say we are not communicating. So that is one thing, that when we're saying, when you send a mail and you don't get a reply, then whether are we communicating or not? And I was thinking, it's actually you're getting a feedback, even though it's not what we desire. It's not effective, but at the end, it's still a form of communication, and the person is communicating by the silence. So it's a form of indirect communication. So I just want us to maybe you elaborate more on that, when it comes to the nonverbal communications, and how useful is that, so that we can always integrate that when we communicate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matthew. So for the Ghana Growth Program, we're looking at young people between the ages of 15 and 35 years. And all you have to do is just, we have a link that you can give us your details, information, that is your name, your age, where you are, and what you're doing, whether you're employed or unemployed. Basically, the program is that we want to transition young people into jobs, especially in the ATVET sector. By ATVET, I mean agricultural, technical, vocational education and training. So every work, or all kinds of work along that chain. So both formal and informal. It could be being in the office, it could be entrepreneurship. So any kind of job that falls under. So far as you eat, you're in the ATVET sector, and whatever that we consume is as a result of people in that value chain. So we are trying to transition people into that workplace. And also we want to help people build up on their skills, especially on soft skills. So that's why we organized career clinic or online clinic to help you to enhance on the skills that you have, the soft skills that we have. So there are no requirements. All that you need to do is that you just register. We have shared the link on the chat room. So you just register and be a part of it. And when you become part of it, you just get access to trainings, and you also get access to some of the job opportunities that we have. So when there's a job opportunity and we think that you fall into that career space, we just give you a call and we find out if you're unemployed or employed. If you're unemployed and you think you want to be in that career space, we just have a short screening and interview, take you through the process of interview screening. And then when we are done and you're shortlisted for that role, we give you to the employer and then that follows up. So basically that's what the program is about, that we're helping people transition into job. So if you're between the ages of 15 and 35, you qualify to be in that. I hope that is well understood.
Yeah, so does you have that? So what do you stand to gain in the context of that? Are you sponsored internationally by MasterCard, or after you've transitioned someone into job like other recruitment agencies, you the person have to pay some commission or something like that? Can you hear me?
Sorry, you said after you have transitioned the person into job?
Yeah, maybe the person, some recruitment agencies, they help you get a job, then maybe they have a commission, whatever you're going to take at the end of the day. That's what I was asking. Or it's just a foundation or being sponsored by the MasterCard to do this. So I'm just asking, what do you stand to gain as an organization? Because I know maybe you're not doing that for free. That's just what I wanted to know.
Okay. I would like to respond to that. Thank you very much for your question. When we joined the program, the Ghana Grows program, which is being led by the Springboard Foundation, the commitment for us was to work with them in their youth development efforts, and for MasterCard, the Young Africa Works program. For us, it gives us, one, we move out of our usual recruitment, and we move beyond Accra. So far, a lot of our work at Access has been Accra-based, and this pushes us outside of Accra. So that for us is advantageous because we have a country where we do want to engage clients who are outside of Accra. We do not get paid a commission once we place people in the Ghana Grows program. So if there's an opportunity and we send you and you're selected on your merit, where you're placed in that role, and then that's it. We don't get paid for that. The service that we provide, we have committed to join the program. So it's not just us, there are different organizations coming through. And we've been given the funding to set up a project team to actually help match young people with opportunities. That's it. And so for us, it's the exposure, it's the experience that we're building, it's the opportunity to actually be part of something that is transformational for Ghana and for young people. And so there's nothing like when we send you to a place, we're getting some extra something, and everything that we do, whether it's for the job seeker or it's for the employer, that is done under the Ghana Grows umbrella, is done at no cost. Now, Access itself has worked for the last 15 years in recruitment and training and organizational development. And so the employer may engage us and say, hey, we need some leadership development, or we need something for our management team, etc. And that engagement might be with Access, to use some of the tools that we use in delivering our services and interventions. But anything that we're doing that involves hiring or recruiting young people for employers and helping employers with basic soft skills training for their staff, etc., comes at no cost. Access continues its work. Access continues its, work in recruitment and OD and training, etc. And then the Ghana Grows team focuses on supporting young people to get exposure to work and helping employers to find young people. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, very insightful. Thank you. I think it was very helpful.
Okay, you also had a question about how nonverbal plays a key role in communication. You know, from the beginning, I mentioned that 70% of what you communicate has to do with your posturing. So, for instance, if you have a boss speaking to you and you're usually on your phone, or you always have a strict phone, or you're not giving your person's attention based on how you're posturing, it affects how people communicate with you, because in the end they'll think that, well, this person, if you're speaking to, the person does not give you a good face, or the person is always on the phone call, or the person is always typing messages, the person is always on social media. So the person may not be able to communicate with you or relay information with you, or will not necessarily give you things to do because of how your posture has been. Or somebody is talking to you, arms are folded, you're not really enjoying the conversation, or you're not in a conversation with a person. Sometimes it gives cue to the person that, well, Charlie, this person that I'm speaking to most of the time, the person's attention is not on me, or the person's posturing does not look good. So when they're communicating with you, they wouldn't wholly come out to talk to you. So I think that that's how it plays a role. If any of my team members want to answer the question too, the floor is open.
Yeah, thank you. I was more emphatic about you as a communicator, because it's your role to get the attention of your audience. So if you're talking and someone is folding their hands, maybe it's not the message he's expecting. So how do you get his attention? How do you trying to sell out your message? So how do you get the person's attention? So that is what I was much emphatic about. But thank you anyway for your view. Yeah.
Linda, may I? Okay. So thanks, Matthew. Generally, when you're talking to people, the responsible thing to do is, or the useful thing to do is to pay attention to social cues. Person is looking at their watch, that tells you immediately that they're bored, they're in a hurry, they don't want to listen. Sometimes it depends on the audience you have, the purpose. If it's possible, you actually communicate about what you're observing. I would ask, are you okay? It looks like our energy is waning a little bit. And so where it's possible, I may actually stop, ask a few questions to get the audience engaged before I continue. Other times I may read the cues, and if it's possible, give a break and say, all right, it seems everybody's tired. I can observe that some people may not be, fully here. And let me give you a break so that you can, step aside, etc. If it's a speech that you're giving and you don't have the opportunity or the luxury to initiate a break and all those things, one of the ways in which you can catch your audience's attention is questions, engaging them. Let me see by show of hand, how many of you have visited the Kakum National Park before? So not an irrelevant question, but a question that is in line with whatever you're presenting about, so that you've talked about auditory communicators, you've talked about, different kinds of communicators. So in a session where it's possible, when you stop with a question, you ask people to raise their hands. The visual learner is observing. The kinesthetic learner is, raising their hand. They're taking an action. It breaks the monotony a little bit. If I see disagreement, for me personally, and again, it depends on your audience and the purpose. If I see disagreement, I would stop and address it. I know there are some people who may disagree with my comments on why vehicles should not be allowed to get onto so and so road. I would like to reiterate that, so you read the room and you incorporate it in your communication, but you try not to allow it to just slip by. So where you can, you actually use the body language that you see to inform your communication. Again, context matters, so there's no single formula that you can use every time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Lydia, your hand is raised. Do you have a question?
No, please, sorry.
Okay, does anybody have a question or contribution? Okay, if there aren't any, please be sure to fill the poll that we have on in the chat room. And so before we go, I ask that we all turn our camera on so that we take a photo. I'm not seeing people's faces, or you don't want me to see. Please turn on your camera so that I see. Okay, just one person has filled the form, so please be sure to fill it for me. Okay. Roquetta, Solomon, Amanda, Samuel, Nawanga, if you could turn on your video for me. Okay, thank you. And please, let's smile. Please smile for me. You know, my picture will not be nice. Thank you all very much. Some people are patient. Okay, so thank you once again for joining the call. So on the 17th of November, we have another career clinic that talks about public speaking. So do well to join so that we help you in that regard. So have a wonderful day, and we hope that your day is productive. And when you are communicating to wherever that you find yourself, be sure to use the 7 C's of communication, and we are good to go. So bye.